Makerfair 2019 is not just about being great, it's about being outstanding. Welcome to the outstanding pool of innovators and inventors here in Sri Lanka. So, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy the inauguration of Makerfair 2019. Looking at the video, what I feel is that today is going to be all about fun and excitement only. Because as someone said, it's in the times of fun that we learn most. So today will be a day of learning, day of fun, and day of excitement. I think we owe and round of applause for the organizers for that wonderful video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the United States Embassy is supporting to bring together young inventors and innovators from across Sri Lanka, from different areas, to Makerfair 2019 at Trace Expert City is fascinating place. And today is not just about an exhibition, it's not just about an engineering exhibition, but about innovation workshops, panel discussions, and Sri Lanka's largest ever robot battle. How can we forget that? Which is backed by University of Uwe Lhasa, which is already happening over there. Now, who else is there to better explain, give an introduction to this wonderful event today other than one of my great friend, Ranjan Gulatham. Ranjan is one of the pioneers and backbones of Makerspace program, and in this Makerfair 2019 program, I would say, he was running a pilot role, so pilot that he loved this, he was so passionate about this, and even if you look here today, you will see that the eyes are still sore from the sleepless nights that he had encountered. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please put your hands together for Ranjan Gulatham.
Thank you very much for great introduction about me. So here is the guest and Makerspace student. First let me tell you a little bit about Makerspace came into being in Sri Lanka and how I got this opportunity. So a few years back I was asked to conduct an information session on 3D printing of my company associates. After I completed this session, one of my friends, colleagues, met me and told that American Center attached to US Embassy has brought a few 3D printers that they were going to start a program called Makerspace. 3D printers were new to Sri Lanka at that time. I went to talk to American Center, director of American Center, Mr. Sanjay. So luckily for me, they were looking at the person coordinate program as on behalf of American Center. I got selected as a project coordinator, and I feel proud of standing here on stage in front of such a distinguished audience like you. We have 3 spaces for the makers building teams here in Colombo, Kandy and Mata. We conducted 60 plus sessions every year for free of charge for the technical people. Actually, Makerspace is a global concept where people get together and build a community for the makers. People where imaging become a real place for the innovative mind. Let's take a look at our own history. Our ancestors have built these large stupas, built tanks, log canals. So, were they not makers at that time? Did they have knowledge that technology built such as Yodel with a giant inch of pyramid? How they did build a thing that kind of accuracy? In our ancestors makers, we today also carry that same deal, but we can create it by making new thing is nothing for new thing. We assume right? Where we learn and what we learn to build. Should that day be limited to just for a makerspace community? No, right? We should demonstrate our talents to everyone. Makerfair is a platform to create Sri Lankan makers to make things and makers showcase their talents. The first Makerspace program was held in Kandy. Around 4,000 people have participated for that program. This is just the second step of Makerfair. When we selected this program, we wanted to do something similar to what we wanted to do this in Kandy. But little by little, this thing end up and look where we end up. Right? No one believed that we could do something of this magnitude. I should thank my team who volunteered to do such effort to bring this small idea to an event this week. Today we have a lot of things like a school exhibition and school project competition and Sri Lanka largest robot battle in India, right? So you can participate for that events as well, right? So thank you very much. Enjoy it, right?
Thank you, Rajan, for reminding about our DNA, that we are makers, that we are innovators by design. And every one of you an innovator, and every one of you as an inventor will come to an human being. Thank you very much, Rajan. Now, next up, we have a very important individual in this Makerfair 2019 stage. Now, obviously, Makerfair organizers always try to give the best and best value to our innovators and inventors who are budding in Sri Lanka. And next, we thought of bringing a key person, proficient speaker to this wonderful stage to bring more value to this audience. Now, although Ranjan mentioned that this is just the second step of Makerfair, already this has brought brilliant value to Sri Lankan community. So let me introduce the keynote speaker of this event. Professor Ajit Alvis is a professor at the Department of Chemical and Process Engineering at the University of Monaco. He completed his PhD at the University of Cambridge, UK, completing his bachelor's from the University of Monaco, and also he holds the MBA from Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Jawaharlal. Now, notably, Professor Alvis was the chairman of Engineering Research Unit at the University of Monaco, chairman to National Nanotechnology Committee, project coordinator at the Secretariat for Science, Technology and Innovation of Sri Lanka. He has published many research articles and book chapters in international various places and local journals as a regular columnist for the daily financial times in Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Professor Ajit Dialis.
Hi everyone, good morning. First of all, a very big thank you for the invitation extended to meet me here today. And I think this place is buzzing with young voices and energy. So it's definitely kind of you get a different feeling. And we heard about the spirit that you are going to unleash this Makerfair 2019 in Colombo here right now. So yes. It's said that it's in our DNA, but sometimes even though it's in your DNA, you need some reminding because we sometimes forget our way and get excited about different things and sometimes lose focus. So I thought I'll just remind again here that one of our great poets and philosophers I have mentioned time back, even before we received our independence from the British in 1948. So what he said is really rings true, right? And these were the days before our usual MBAs and theories of innovation management, and you sit in class and you do fast forward how to very quickly 60 minutes to innovation. So he said the nations which does not create new things will not rise. I think it's very appropriate for today, and your intentions are to unleash innovation, and especially the youngsters should understand the value of doing something different and being creative. That's very, very important. You're coming together to exchange what you have done and what probably you have in mind as well. I mean, you expose with what you have done your intentions to your future, right? The area that you want to work on. But it's very, very important as individuals, as institutions, as a nation, and as perhaps everybody, that we really seriously focused on doing things differently, not for the sake of doing things differently, because we are really seriously living in challenging times, right? Sometimes we may not even understand the issue, because it's not just about being creative, because we have been also been tested by the constraints that are coming onto us, right? Serious constraints. We just do not have the freedom to engage in any way that we are interested in because of the cap that we have put on our temperature rise. We have to ensure that the global climate change is actually addressed by the way we do things. So we do not have the freedom of 60s, freedom of 80s. It's just not there. We are constrained. But then, how do we come out of as a human race? Because constraints are probably not new. We always face different constraints one way or the other. But and understanding the gravity, so at this generation need to rise up to that occasion of, yes, we are talking about 9-10 billion people on planet after 2030, 2040, and we are not that far away from that day. And we have reduced this climate change issue. We constantly see the impact. On the other hand, we see technology going at a blinding pace on, we also take 2030 as the year of singularity. So you listen to Ray Kurzweil, and we hear the machine is going to surpass the man. Of course, it's a man's creation. But then some people talk about artificial intelligence as a man's last invention, meaning that once it's done and unleashed, perhaps we may no longer have some control over that, and it's going to go beyond. So, interesting times, I mean, completely perhaps different constraints that we have to understand. But from a national point of view, it's very, very important to be creative. Because this particular song, or rather the second line is very interesting. It says, I mean, like if you find that begging is also not successful, you just cry and in a corner and then wait for something to happen, right? So the point is, be creative and change the economy and change your destiny. So when you be creative, it's also important that we have an idea. Look, I am being creative here, and I am going to translate what am I doing to something of use to others. And I'm being creative in the space where we are finding solutions to our problems. Solution to the problems of today, and perhaps as we talk about climate change, solution to the problems of the coming period. Mind you, Sri Lanka has also been classified, may not be quite right, but we are the Global Climate Risk Index. We have become the number 2 behind Puerto Rico. So it's not an interesting position to be in, right? To have a climate risk index, global number 2. That's not a fancy, a nice position to be on the top. You'd rather be on the bottom in that type of thing. And that gives you a whole set of unforeseen scenarios that can develop. So how really we address this, right? So this particular sentence really rings true, and we should really take it to our heart and probably improve on it. So, and it's, when you see space like this space itself is creative, right? But here is a creative space. Sometimes spaces are necessary for us to unleash our minds to think differently. Because if you get into the normal 4 walls and just a roof over your head, and you see that exposure is what's ordinary and usual, you may not get some different ideas, right? So creative spaces are very important. I suppose that's the whole objective of Makerspace. Changing the site, changing the place that you are positioned, so that itself requests or pushes you to do things differently. So it's very interesting to see our neighboring country India and unleashing a wave of innovation, trying to find what is called Atal Innovation Drive, the Atal Innovation Mission. What's the objective of the Modi government in this? Is to get 1 million what's called modern innovators to the society. 1 million modern innovators to the society. Just to transform India to a new India. And they start at schools. And the type of space they are trying to create that generation to blossom is like what we call as Makerspace. The difference between today and that may be, this is transient. We have it today and we disperse tomorrow. But here, you're going to take a generation through such spaces. So they have created what is called Atal Tinkering Labs in Indian schools. And these are examples. I mean, you walk into the classroom, you walk into that space, you see the message, I am an innovator. The messages that comes to you is to be different, is to be creative, is to push yourself from the normal that you are in to a new frontier, new level. So constantly egging you to change. And of course it's not a pressure. I'm pretty sure the students love the space and love the challenges. And so this is what is happening in our neighboring India. So I think it would be nice if we can create innovation spaces as well. In fact, I remember in Kosti we did put into the budget for 100 million rupees for the first public innovation space in Sri Lanka. It's almost succeeded, but it was to be the place where currently we have one of the best incubators, the Hatch, and ICTA was to drive that. But somehow the kinetics didn't happen, and money was returned back to the treasury. Right? So I think while you are having interim, so now you need to create some spaces that are permanent. I think you mentioned a couple of them over here, but it's somebody who can walk in, a child who can walk in, experiment, play around with things, and go back. It's almost like the ignited space, right? So, but it's having our day. So this is an Indian lesson from India, which we really should take seriously. We really need this transformation, specifically like in STEM education. Sri Lanka lags behind in STEM education, and we speak of like, our ratio is today is like 30 to 70. That is 30% in science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and 70% in arts and commerce. So that's a seriously ratio that we need to change. We need to change it to like 60-40. So that's a big responsibility. How do you change that? How do you excite youngsters at a very young age to explore science, play with maths, right? Understand technology, be creative. So this 60-40 is a tremendous task ahead of us, because unless we have the human capital, we just can't think of translating that. I mean, you need human capital to be the catalyst. I mean, like, you need a critical mass, and we at this stage lack this critical mass. So event like this enables, I mean, we talked about thousands coming in, right? So it's very important that we have this. And we excite youngsters by this opening, hopefully, to stay on course in the same area the time to come. And after a while, we know habits forming. Some say 21 days, some say 66 days. Habits get formed and you are there. And we don't have to again work more on that, because that person has transformed he or herself. Now that's we need to work on. So it's important for us to look at this from an innovation point. Even if you're an inventor, you may be very happy doing what you're doing, but understand that to proceed further, to get into the economics of it, you may have to work on what we call as intellectual property. Now this is a very old picture from a history, but I have just planted Sri Lanka in the middle of it. This is coming from Germany and this is coming from DASF, right? I've just used the same figure just to emphasize, because they had this idea in their organizational DNA from the very beginning. And that's why they are number one company, chemical industry, right? So you do your research or you do your creative work and you come out with ideas, but you protect, you do your intellectual property, you do your capturing the value, and it's perhaps very important, because it is that what creates wealth. And this is meaningful wealth, because you are just having wealth from doing something very positive and very important and capturing that. So we need to understand this element too, right? When you come up with ideas, when you put that in prototype, how do you move to the next stage? How do you get into the next stage of development? You cannot, as an individual, may not be able to do that. That's why you need system support to look at, okay, how do you work on intellectual property, the copyrights, the designs. Very important. And even if I think United States would agree that 33% of the GDP in United States comes from intangible assets, right? But when we look at our annual central bank report, we just don't see the word on intangible assets. We are really on the tangible assets. And the tangible assets has a different role in a knowledge economy. It's the intangible assets that has value in a knowledge economy. So we keep on talking about the knowledge economy, but unfortunately work less on intangible assets. So that doesn't work right? We need to change. So it's like power of innovation. It's very interesting. I mean, you probably sit on something that can transform an economy. Now I just remember Sri Lankan presidential hopeful, but not in the current 35 list, right? So it goes for this time around, that's not possible. But what he has written has a very interesting line. We have about 1.2 in software exports today. And he was talking about taking that into about $3 to $5 billion in about 4 years. But I like to say this example. This is the power, right? So I don't know who is carrying the Waze app. Now it's with Google, and Waze, about 3 kids from Israel, and they celebrate what's called the Tim Cook Day. Of course, Tim Cook is from Apple, right? So he happened to mention when one of the Apple software failed on mapping, he mentioned about till we come with our right software, you can either use X, Y, or Waze. And they were a small company, small group in Israel, and doing some work, but it was recognized. And you know, this straight away went for a $1 billion sale. $1 billion sale to Google, and that is taken up for social mapping. So the Google Maps at the time didn't carry that, so this was taken and now we see it's embedded. So it's interesting what an idea and what some effort, and with such effort with this particular area of innovation, where you are talking about communication technologies and hardware, software, the potential is so much, right? So we need not think about arithmetic progression. You add a 1 billion, another 25 billion and so on. You just can have exponential if we do the right way of innovation. And that's possible. This day and age, we talk of exponential change. And we may have to think of exponential action as well to get out of our problems that we are facing today. So youngsters should think the possibility. This was initially looked at about 3.1 billion, but anyway 1 billion sales. $1 billion it went up. That's what it says, right? So how much value in that effort that they have done? So on another sphere of innovation, I also like to say that we also had similar, but this was to be story of finding fertilizer, and it's very important that when we are on Makerspace, we look at problems of each other and probably work through, like it's finding archaeology and finding the next dose on some robotic arms and maybe on drones. How we can come together in these different areas and really synergize and go up. So this was a case. This probably was the very first decent patent scale sale from Sri Lanka. So we were at $1 million US. So this went up to about $1.25 million US, even though this has also very serious value, right? So interesting what innovation, what some researchers, what some creative person put your heads together, puts your effort in, and then translate that into something solid and the value that it creates in the society, right? Of course, this here the value is kind of appreciated by in the economic transaction. Fine, that's what innovation means. Invention is when there is no economic transaction. The moment you have an economic transaction is innovation, right? So we really need to work on this space. Whatever the ideas that we do, whatever the equipment that we produce, whatever the thinking that we have, software or whatever, we need to be aware of the potential. We need to understand how we translate that. That translation gets the economy going. And that translation is key to the economic development. And today, in this day and age, that's very, very important for us. For Sri Lanka, that's very important. We need not just be creative, we need to convert our ideas into rupees. What we call research into rupees. Right? So I'll just put one idea here. Anybody to think, because sometimes we find we spend our energy in that particular unknown quadrant. And I think we should change our mindset on this. The day we can adjust ourselves to think, move away from that unknown quadrant to any other quadrant, you are going to have some meaningful economic change. Why? It's like what we call as a war quadrant. Whatever you do pushes the frontier of knowledge. It doesn't push the frontier of an economy, but it pushes the frontier of knowledge. It's like finding the address of an electron, right? Somebody else can ask the question, what's the use of the finding the address of the electron? But the point is, it's so fundamental in some way. It leads to so many other things to happen. So you add value, you push us the frontier. You can have something like what we call the top left corner of the Jenner quadrant, right? You push us the frontier of knowledge, but it becomes immediately useful. It's like I can tackle diseases by vaccination. So vaccination is brand new concept. But the point is, the moment the vaccination comes in, I am so happy to queue up and get my injection because I am now going to avoid my disease in future. So it pushes the knowledge, but it also supports the society immediately. So that's the Jenner quadrant. But we are welcome to work in the Edison quadrant, right? So the Edison quadrant, you don't actually add knowledge, but you synergize, you bring knowledge together, you bring various parts together, and then do something which you know has a definite value to the system or the society or the economy. So we have the choice. We can work on pushing the science, the frontier. We can be very focused on a solution to a problem where the solution can only come from pushing the frontiers of science. Or you can see what A and B and C and has done, put them together creatively and come up with a solution to a problem that is there. So that's what Edison did. But the problem is, if we start working on doing what somebody else has done, where you know the problem, you know the solution, nothing gets added, you don't want to put your face into that quadrant. So that's why we never put faces into that quadrant. But we are very happy to say it is a Bohr quadrant, the Jenner quadrant, or the Edison quadrant. So when you think about something to do in your makerspace, just think about what I said. The problem that I am going to think about, I am not going to be a me too. I am not going to repeat what somebody else has done. If at all, if I am doing that, I am going to bring a lot of ideas and synthesize something that nobody has done. So at least I play like Edison, if not like Bohr. Bohr is a difficult thing. Jenner you had to be a little lucky in different. But Edison is very open. It's always possible. The Edison quadrant is a very open quadrant, maybe for the makerspace, right? So something to just think about. And so with that, I will conclude. So let me thank. I look forward to the interactions and seeing the energy in action. And that's what I suppose is what we have come together. But I just want to leave with this message, just reinforcing what I said. We do have few people, right? For Sri Lanka, the human resource is a scarce resource. And we are also being challenged by an aging society. Sri Lanka is not a young society anymore. We are an aging society. So those who are young has even more of a challenge to do. But we must first understand what we are doing. So I conclude with this, just putting the last sentence, that the country will know that you existed if you have done something to the country, not just to yourself, right? So you can paraphrase or basically reiterate what John F. Kennedy said as well, right, on this. It is very much similar. Think not what you can do for your, and what you can do to the country, kind of the JFK statement. So thank you very much, and thank you again for the invitation, right, Aravinda, and the organizers. But it's happy to be here, but to see the energy in action again. Thank you.
Professor Ajit just proved that he's one of the greatest think tanks here in Sri Lanka. Thank you, Professor, for reminding that although it's in our DNA, it needs a little bit of a reminding once in a while. And thank you for reminding that we need to add some economic aspect into the things that we do. I remember Tony Robbins once said that the success does not just come from dreaming, but it's all about taking massive determined action. And this is the second chance of Makerfair, and I'm pretty sure this community will grow to become people who take action and to bring about the results we Professor just mentioned and emphasized. Now, the organizers have organized a token of appreciation for the keynote speaker. Can I please invite the Director of American Center, Mr. Sanjay Mailwani, to give away the token of appreciation for the keynote speaker. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Sanjay. Now it's all about officially starting the exhibition that you all have been waiting for, Makerfair 2019. In order to do the honor, let me invite the chief guest of the day. Susan Vok is the economic section chief for the United States Embassy in Sri Lanka. Ms. Vok is a career foreign service officer who brings more than 15 years of diplomatic experience to her work in Colombo. Prior to arriving in Sri Lanka in September, Ms. Volk was working in Bogota, Colombia. She has also worked in Germany and Nepal and holds degrees from George Washington and Indiana universities. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ms. Susan Volk.
U.S. Embassy and our American Center Makerspace program to help kick off this very special day. A day designed for making, for learning, for idea sharing, network building, and celebrating what's possible through human ingenuity. There are people who have ideas, and there are people who make ideas happen. Making today happen took time, talent, and treasure on the part of many corporate and academic partners and hard-working volunteers. I want to extend special thanks to our friends and hosts here at Trace Expert City, including General Manager Emunu Serenayake for opening your facility to our exhibitors. Thanks also to our digital and telecommunications corporate partners, Mobitel and Orel, and our academic partner for today's robot battle, Uva Velasa University. I understand that the robotics competition that is about to commence will be one for the record books, with more than 160 teams participating. Thanks to the team from Zone 24/7 as well, including Sankalpa Galmaria, the general manager, Pabudu Karunurata, Embedded Systems Lead, and Ranjan Kulatanga, the Senior Design Engineer and Lead Organizer for Makerfair 2019. And Ranjan, from what I hear, you and the Zone 24/7 team have been working for 24/7 in preparation for today, and we are really grateful for all of your work. In all, we have more than 150 volunteers, 50 corporate partners, and 11 university partners collaborating with us today. Among them, members of the American Center Colombo's Youth Forum. So whether you're a volunteer, I see many of you in the audience right now, a sponsor, an exhibitor, a competitor, a mentor, a presenter, or simply one of the curious among us, thank you for being here with us today. Invention, and the showcasing of it especially, is hard, but inspiring work. Work that demands collaboration, creative problem solving, and perseverance. But that hard work pays off. As the economics chief for the U.S. Embassy, I have a particular interest in innovation and entrepreneurship because entrepreneurship drives economic development. We see this over and over again across cities, countries, and global economies, and the global economy. Economies thrive when entrepreneurship thrives. Entrepreneurship creates jobs, inspires competition, drives innovation, opens doors to new markets, and improves living standards. It also contributes to a more equitable and inclusive distribution of income. We in the United States have a particular thanks to give to our entrepreneurs and innovators. They transformed our largely rural economy into what you know of as the United States today, where we have world-class technology, we have innovative new products, and we have groundbreaking scientific research. Entrepreneurs and small business owners employed over 3 million people in the United States in 2015. And I'm confident that entrepreneurship and small businesses are also an important part of Sri Lanka's economic future, especially as Sri Lanka aims to become one of the world's leading technology and innovation hubs. Thank you all for the essential role that you are playing in Sri Lanka's future by virtue of your presence and participation today. The U.S. Embassy and American Center are pleased to be able to support this innovative gathering. And now, without further ado, let's get it started. Have a great day.
Thank you, Susan, for endorsing that Sri Lanka is in the verge of becoming one of the technical giants in the world. Now, Susan also mentioned that this is a gathering of all volunteers. And ladies and gentlemen, when you volunteer, you're not paid in money, or you're not paid with anything, but it's just the love that you get. People around you may forget what you said, people around you may forget what you did, but people around you never will forget how you made them feel. Thank you, all the volunteers, for making this a success. Let me remind, ladies and gentlemen, since the exhibition is now officially open, I would like to invite all of you to walk, meet and greet all the great people out there, inventors, innovators. I want you to inspire them, appreciate their effort, because they are the real people who are making things into action, as Professor mentioned. But at 10:30 we have a special gathering starting, which is a session on tech talks. One of the key prominent speakers are going to speak in this very stage, starting from Professor Raj Somadeva to the story of Vega and to the innovation DNA of Sri Lanka. And from 1 to 2 we have a special meeting, which is a social media meetup. So all the inventors, all the innovators, all the young people, we invite you to become here for the social media meetup. And from 2 to 3:30 we have a very special segment, which is a panel discussion to think about and to talk about invention and innovation here in Sri Lanka, how to put the economic aspect of it, and how to make sure that it actually gets into action, not just talking about it. So since the exhibition is already open, without further ado, let's invite all the people to mingle with them, to appreciate their effort, to have a beautiful day here at Trade Center. Thank you for joining at the inauguration session. Let's enjoy the exhibition. Thank you very much.